Welcome to Write, Writer, Write. I'm your host, Deborah Froese. Today, I want to talk about something many of us understand deeply, even if we've never given it a name. It's that feeling when an old pressure, an old fear, or an old behavior pattern suddenly resurfaces, even when nothing about your current situation is actually threatening. It's tied to a principle of human behavior called the law of conditions, and it can absolutely affect your writing practice. Curious? Then let's go. Let me begin with a quick snapshot of my week. I'm in the middle of a large editing project with a challenging timeline. It's a fantastic project, interesting subject matter, wonderful people, but it demands a level of focused attention that's tough to sustain, especially after weeks of weaving in and out of other commitments. It also comes with a long to-do list and a deadline that's been pushed back by other deadlines. So now, the pressure is really on. And it isn't just the work. It's about the responsibility. If I get held up, I hold other people up. Editing has so many moving parts, so many unknowns, that you can't always predict how long something will take. What if an issue shows up late in the game? What if something needs more work than expected? And editing is something that you can only do for so many hours in a day before you just flatline. This week, when I finally reached the end of the project and had to finalize a few things, my brain just stalled. My thoughts swirled. My chest tightened. No matter how many times I reread the paragraphs in front of me, I could not get my mind to settle. I no longer knew what I was looking at. I just couldn't focus. And that feeling was all too familiar. This is where the law of conditions comes in. The idea that past experiences shape how we respond to new ones, sometimes logically, sometimes not. When the conditions of today resemble conditions surrounding something unpleasant from the past, our nervous systems can hit the alarm bell before our conscious mind has a chance to weigh in. It might help to tell a story. So imagine a small mountain trail used every summer by lots of hikers. One year, Lila takes that trail just as a brutal storm rolls through. Branches snap, rain turns the ground slick, a tree limb falls close enough to send her sliding toward the edge. She is traumatized. For months afterwards, she avoids hills. She knows the storm was a freak event, but her body remembers the fear. The next summer, she tries again, under clear skies. But halfway up the trail, she notices the trees shifting gently in the breeze. Nothing dangerous, just movement. But it's enough to echo the memory of that storm. She freezes. Her logical mind says, "This is fine, it's just a breeze." Her nervous system says, "Last time this happened, we were in trouble." So she turns back. The conditions, sunlight, shadows, the sway of branches, trigger a memory that overrides the present. My version of that conditioning goes back to my first year of university. I missed the first 2 months because I was really ill. I couldn't attend class, let alone manage assignments. When I finally returned, even with the understanding of professors and lots of support, I was overwhelmed. I couldn't shake the feeling of being behind. I passed every class, but the fear of impending deadlines, that sense of being late before I even began, followed me through the rest of university. Without realizing it, I learned to associate deadlines with danger. It had nothing to do with the work itself, but because deadlines had become tied to the sense of falling behind and all the overwhelm that goes with it. Now, fast forward to adulthood. Most of my career has been shaped by deadlines. Those early experiences taught my body to brace long before my conscious mind could step in. So decades later, even though I know exactly where this conditioning comes from, heavy workloads or too many overlapping deadlines still stir that old echo. My body remembers the pressure, even though my current reality is really different, even though I'm more skilled, more experienced, and far more capable than I was. As I manage this huge editing project and the others that orbit around it, I'm also taking part in the MANUSCRIPT Momentum Challenge. The challenge is designed as encouragement. It's a gentle way to build a solid writing practice, and I've been showing up. But when I've been wrestling with deadlines at the same time, my system takes a while to shift gears into this practice. There's an old Zen saying, You should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit for an hour. It's a reminder of how important it is to pause. Of course, I know this, and you probably know it too, but this week I was reminded of the power it holds. In the middle of all that deadline noise, I did something counterintuitive. I stepped away. I emailed a group of writer friends, and we went out to dinner before attending a book launch together. I had a wonderful time and went to bed without a thought of deadlines in mind at all. And I slept well. The next morning, as some of that nervousness fluttered up again, I completed a few tasks and stepped away again, just briefly. My jittery brain settled. Clarity sharpened. Nothing was magically resolved, but my capacity expanded and the old deadline angst loosened. I've been working on my conditioned response to deadlines for a while. This week reminded me how essential it is to step away, to meditate, to take a walk, to spend time with people who light me up. But stepping away isn't the only solution. Most days, I start by working on my own creative project. Giving myself permission to touch my own work first anchors me, and it brings me joy. It reminds me of who I am outside of deadlines and expectations. If I skip this practice too often, deadlines feel heavier. I also return to a mantra I learned from Kabbalist David Guillaume. Thank you, Creator, for expanding my vessel so I can hold more light. For me, this isn't forced positivity. It reframes the challenge as capacity building rather than oppression or failure. Some writers struggle more than others, but we all wrestle with something. It's easy to interpret that struggle as weakness or inefficiency, but recognizing it and learning to work with it is part of growth. If you ever feel your chest tighten or your thoughts swirl or stall in certain familiar high-pressure situations, pause and ask whether old conditions might be echoing. Step back long enough to breathe. Touch your own creative project first or do something else that brings you joy, because joy raises energy. And reframe the moment with words that ground you. These simple practices give you space to reclaim perspective. Old conditions don't vanish overnight, but they loosen their grip when we stop letting them steer the ship. What old conditions might be holding you back? Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time on Write Writer, Write.